I'm going to screw this up. I'm warning you right now. And I know who submitted this, so I'm warning you. I can't do this very well. Before we begin, thank you very much to Long Convoy. Ah. For pitching in over on Covey. It's he instructed me to say it like Leroy Jenkins. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's not in me. I don't even know how that's going to look on the recording. I apologize to any headphone users. I should have done that before. But thank you for the contribution. Thank you for helping to keep the channel going. Always appreciated. So, this is not typically something I would discuss because it basically boils down to me talking about a single toy release. But oh my god, this thing has dominated my every social feed and my entire Discord for like the last 2 days. So I need to just cover it, get all my thoughts out. Otherwise, when we do this on the news roundup on Monday, it's just going to consume literally everything. So let us talk about the brand new Nexus Prime toy. So before we get into that, let me give you like a brief history lesson for everyone who may not be aware of exactly why this thing is what it is. So, back when FunPub was running things, they had this idea circa 2000 something or other. I don't remember the dates. The point here is, when they started things off, they kicked off what they called the Transformer Collectors Club. And the idea behind the Collectors Club is that for a yearly fee, you got yourself a run of magazines that they would send in the mail. You got a few like little exclusive offers and little discounts to their store. The big thing about being the Collector Club member is that every year, as long as you held on to your membership the entire year, they would send you one free figure. And they did that for the first 5 years. And the figure that they would send you was one of these guys. Every one of them is a translucent blue and red repaint from the Energon combiners. So you know how I feel about them. The point being, for 5 years, they ran a comic book story in those magazines to actually tell you about this team, how they were originally one being that was broken up by the blade of the Star Saber and scattered across the multiverse, to the point where throughout the story, as they dimension hop to find each other, you find one of them is an Autobot, there are Decepticons amongst them. Heatwave, the leader, is a Shattered Glass Decepticon. So they just ended up all over the place. It's really just a way of drawing it out. So, like, it took 5 years to tell the entire story and get all 5 released so that you could actually combine them into Nexus Prime. Nexus Prime. Don't Google that other name. What was interesting about it, though, was that this is one of the very first stories that ever even mentioned the 13. Like, right in the infancy of the idea that the 13 Primes were like the new origin story for Transformers, this was the first story to mention it. So early in its development that it was actually referred to as the number 13 rather than spelling out the word 13. The results vary depending on your opinion of how this toy looks. I think it looks fine, but the translucent plastic is such abundance terrifies me. Granted, have no idea how this toy has held up over the years. Someone in the comments section who actually has this thing, please tell me how yours is doing. I do know that some of the more imperative parts of articulation and connection points are like a much firmer plastic. They're not translucent, but just kind of let me know. Give me an idea of how it is. So I want you to know all of that, and I want you to know that like there's such legacy behind this character because it's even though, you know, Alpha Trion predates all of them, and Vector Prime had a toy before any of the others did. Nexus Prime is technically the first toy released intended to be one of the 13 primes. So there is some history here. And now we have to talk about the new Nexus Prime toy that just got revealed. Disappointing is an understatement. Like, they have the colors of that character, but that's pretty much it. And I would argue even the colors are not right. You know, they're far brighter, especially the blue. The blue is like dark on the others, and it kind of tones the toy down. This is just like bright colors all over the place. And more than that, generic. Oh my god, this guy looks so generic. This guy looks like any like crowd filler in any cheap Transformers animation, or like any scene that just needs like throwaway designs. You look at like like Energon or Armada for those. This guy looks like nothing. He looks like an AI generated Transformer coloring book character. And I should know. I've done research into that for a video that never came out. Yeah, it's just dull. It's just kind of weirdly generic and dull. And if you think the vehicle mode could save it, it can't. It can't. Some of the 13 have pretty weird vehicle modes and alternate modes in general because of exactly what they are, and it's an opportunity to do some weird things that Transformers don't typically do. You know, we have a unicycle bike, we have a tendril spaceship, and now we have this that looks like one of the attacking ships out of Tron. Like, this looks like something I shot at playing a game of Galaga. Like, this is not a nice looking spaceship in any way, shape, or form. This is a block with 3 pieces on it that designate that, yes, this is indeed some kind of flying vessel. And that's pretty much it. And that's pretty lame, all things considered. Now, you might be wondering, isn't Nexus Prime the prime of the combiners? Shouldn't it have some aspect of combining to it? It should. It should. We're kind of hoping it is, because right now, there's no concrete confirmation of it. You might go, well, we'll just wait for the box. Maybe the box will show it off. You know, obviously, like, it's a big selling point, so it's going to show it, right? No. No. Now, this could be the same situation that we just got with the brand new Age of the Prime Sideways, where, yeah, we know it does the head swap gimmick. Hasbro had to show it off after the fact. But on the box, nope. Mentions the combined mode for the mini-cons, but doesn't mention the whole head swap thing. That's the whole point of Sideways. So now we have Nexus Prime, where the whole point of him is combining, and we have no idea how he actually combines with anything other than combining with a trash bin when you realize how lame the toy is. That said, my biggest issue with this isn't so much that they've seemed to have either forgotten what the toy is supposed to do or obfuscated it from any public view. What bugs me about it is that it really doesn't fit. You know, if you look at the primes that we have, the entire intention behind them are these like heavily detailed, ancient looking designs. You know, they are the prototypes of modern Transformers. They have much more intricate details and parts to them. They look very alien. Their bodies are unusual sizes and shapes. You know, they have designs to them that you don't typically see in Transformers. You know, they are covered in tendrils, cables, Cybertronian glyphs, fur in some cases, you know, and all of them come with these old looking color schemes. You know, they either look a little bit monochrome because, you know, they're the first ones out of the batch, or they're leaning into these like very soft or dull colors that usually lean into looking like old metal, you know, bronze colors, grays. You take a look at things like Alchemist with this very dark faded green. Like the faded colors are very big in the 13 primes. So they all have this super alien ancient look to them. And then there's their friend Steve. Steve, who does not seem to have nearly as much detail going on, who has barely anything indicating that he transforms whatsoever, the most generic head sculpt you've ever seen, and more importantly, super bright blue and red. I don't understand the design philosophy. Like, you could have changed the hues to fit in with everybody else. The red could absolutely be more faded. The blue could be darker, and it would still hit the right note and look okay. You know, instead they go with this. And like, even like design-wise, even to the robot, like, he looks like he could just be repainted into any kind of like typical well, not ground trooper. He's 3 pieces on his vehicle mode tell me he's a jet. Like, okay, so he could be some kind of like air trooper, but he genuinely looks like you could just repaint him white and black, and he would just look like some kind of aerial version of the auto trooper, doesn't he? It's disappointing. It's exceptionally disappointing, because everyone was so hyped up for this guy, because we thought for sure he was going to do something super weird and really cool and unique. And we at the very least thought he'd have some kind of cool look to him. Gee, I wonder what would get him that impression. He looks nothing like the Covenant of Primus version of Nexus Prime. That would have been kind of cool. You know what gave us the wrong impression, though? He looks nothing like the Hall of the Primes on all the boxes. Not even remotely close. Now, in this shot, yeah, like, Amalgamous obviously went through some changes, but for the most part, that's still kind of Amalgamous in there. Like, you could still make that argument that that's the same robot that saw release. But you look at Onyx. Onyx is spot on. You know, most of those designs in there were spot on, or at least close. And then you have Nexus, who, from the art, we thought he was going to be huge. We thought he was going to be a gigantic character, like Commander class or something, which would have given them some room to put some combiner elements into him. You know, like, I think the idea that I was really, really banking on was that he would be some kind of like weaponizer style gimmick, or even modulator, where like arms and legs would come off on 5mm ports, have simple transformations themselves into simple vehicles, and the torso would have like a more, you know, feel good transformation into a jet or something. Nope. We got Steve McAveragebot. That's what we got. He doesn't look like this. He looks like this. And to be fair, I did think for a while to myself, it's kind of weird that we had an entire movie that had new designs for the primes. And given that these are supposed to be amalgamations of all of the previous versions of these characters, interesting that no one from Transformers 1 was used as an inspiration for one of the Prime toys. Now, I kind of thought that was because they were so far in development at that point that Transformers 1's designs would not be well known or available to the design team at the time. Clearly, I was wrong, because our Nexus Prime looks like this guy in blue, in purple, or blue and red. I mean, at least he doesn't look like this. This guy looks like Blitzwing off Temu. It's just disappointing they pulled that trigger now, especially when there are much cooler designs for Nexus that we've seen previously that he really should have been based on. Not this. Even this has more direction for his design and what he's supposed to do. Now, it's not just me. I wanted to make sure that this was not just like a localized thing in my brain. No, so I've been around a few forum posts, including some public, some private, the private ones where no one has to worry about like anyone coming at them for having a negative opinion of a Hasbro toy. But that also includes my own Discord, the one that's Patreon locked. That one, yeah, like the reaction was pretty universal. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some people who do like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Every toy is going to be someone's least favorite. Every toy is going to be someone's favorite. Got to keep that in mind. But the general consensus is this is a really bad look. For a Prime that they sat on for so long, that had so much hype behind it because of what we imagined it could be and the potential and how unique and different the toy could get, to just come up with like the most basic standard design, that looks like anything an AI bot would have generated overnight, is incredibly disappointing. Now, to be fair, there is more to this than meets the eye. Dun, 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 dun. So we need to go to the source of all things Transformer leak, JT Prime. According to him, there is a combiner head hidden on this toy. So that leads in two different directions that they could possibly take this. One of them is, well, they could go all the way back to the Combiner War toys and actually engineer him to be a torso for them. Judging by the block vehicle mode, that is potentially possible. If you strip the wings off of any given Silverbolt, it would just look like a block robot, just like a rectangular hunk of plastic that unfolds into a robot. As if he didn't have the wings in the cockpit section, the middle section of the jet hanging off of him, he's just a brick. So there's an idea for that here. Like, okay, that is possible, but are they really going to go all the way back to Combiner Wars for that? Most collectors have moved on from Combiner Wars because we've got all these nice show-accurate combiners coming out. Why would we hang on to these? Well, probably because the Scramble City gimmick works completely with those, but beside the point, a lot of us are moving on to the newer ones. And speaking of the newer ones, that does leave the other potential, which is it could be a replacement core for the Commander class toys. That's the speculation. I saw a forum post where JT Prime apparently confirmed that, but I couldn't find the post myself in time to record this. So instead, now I'm just kind of staring at this, going like, if Nexus actually did slot in where Silverbolt goes, how does that gain anything? Like, you'd see a little bit of the blue and red around the midsection and maybe on the sides where the arms connect, but most everything you're going to get out of this is maybe like the top of the chest area and a new head. And on the likes of like Menasor, you're just going to get the new head. It's like that design completely covers Motormaster. That is literally just a shell that makes up Menasor's chest, and just Motormaster just goes inside, holds on to his boys over here for the arms, and then, pops a head out. That's it. So yeah, it's weird that they would leave something like that out. Hasbro has this mentality of they want their toys to, they've said this as much. They want their toys to sell themselves based on their own merits of what they do in and amongst themselves. And then if there's this bonus feature that they're intended to do, then that's all it is. It's a bonus. I take the more pragmatic route, the more skeptical route of that, and say to myself, maybe they just don't want to make it look like, especially in a combiner year, that everything they sell requires you to purchase a $100 Commander class toy just to get to do everything the toy does. Maybe we don't want to make it look like we're trying to influence or force anyone to buy toys they don't necessarily need to. Maybe. Either way, if that is the intention, if that is what this one does, like, how much do you really gain by it? You're getting a new head. Like, it's so minuscule. You could have included a helmet accessory and gotten the exact same thing. I don't know. We do not have an official reveal. This is technically a leak. But my overall thoughts on it right now is just, it looks boring. It looks very generic. It looks too bright. It looks out of place with the other 13. And whatever combining nonsense it does, I don't think is going to compensate for all of that. I almost wish it were a Combiner War torso, because at least that would have more play options and I'd be able to see it and interact with it more rather than what this thing is doing. But we'll see. It might surprise us, it might not, but for now, I genuinely feel like we're at the very end of the 13, what has been so far a kind of hit and miss run of toys, and we're going to finish off on an admittedly kind of cool looking Liege Maximo we'll talk about on Monday's news roundup. And one of the biggest letdowns I think I've ever seen. Like, we're a month into this year, and I already have a candidate for most disappointing Transformer of 2026. And it's this guy, because we were led to believe he would be so much more. And this is all we're getting. But that's my opinion. That's all the thoughts out of my head. Finally. So when we do the news roundup, we can just, like, cover the basics and move on with our lives. So thank you very much for indulging me as I just try to get all of the gremlins out of my brain on this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember, don't start fights over this. Don't get in any arguments. If someone likes it, that's perfectly okay. I'm just being the jerk yucking their yums. That's fine. It's a difference in opinion. We can have those. But for the most part, I'm just kind of curious what the consensus is here. But that's it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.